Welcome to DigitalK.
First of all, big round of applause for the organizers for making this amazing stuff happen, all right? Awesome. So guys, I have a question for you. I would like to feel the temperature in the room. How many of you have ever had a thought about producing some type of content? Whether it's a video, maybe some article, blog post, but something was holding you back. You had some type of fear. Maybe you didn't know how to get started. How many of you? Let's be honest, right? I'm not going to pick anyone. Okay, quite many of you. Now, how many of you produce content on a fairly regular basis? How many of you have some type of experience producing content? Oh, wow, okay. I would say like 50% of the room. So let me ask you one of those awkward questions. How many of you are tired of producing content that nobody consumes? Yeah? Hear this laughter, right? Because everyone can relate, right? I mean, I'm tired myself. It happens sometimes, and we all have those situations where you create a video and you've been working on it for 2 or 3 days, and you think, wow, this is going to be a good one. You click that publish button, the next thing you know, 12 people watch it, right? Amazing. Or the worst situation that can happen, I'm sure you guys can relate, this is the worst. When you finally decide to do a Facebook Live and you know that you will share so much value and you are very passionate about your topic, so you take your phone and you start shooting. And you know that every single person who will be watching will love it. The problem is no one is watching, right? No one is watching, 0. And then something even worse happens. At some point you see this notification that one person tuned in, one person is watching. And then you realize, oh shit, it's my mom. Or some other family member, right? And then this very cruel thought pops into your mind when you start thinking, shit, is it because they really want to consume my content, they believe in my message, or is it because they just want to support me, right? And obviously the answer is obvious. So we've all had those situations. Now the question is, what do you do when those situations happen to you? Do you keep producing content and keep trying, or do you give up? Well, for most people, you know, when the situation like this happens, they try a couple of times, they simply give up. In fact, most people never get started because most people realize that it is difficult to produce content that people want to consume, so they figure, you know what, why even get into the arena and try if probably I'm gonna fail? So look, the title of the presentation says that if your company doesn't produce content, you will miss out big time. And I'd like to tell you that I truly believe in this. So first of all, look, I don't know everything. I still perceive myself to be the white belt in this game of life, right? There's so much more to learn, and I make a ton of mistakes. But over the years of producing content and making all of those mistakes, I can tell you confidently that if you and your company don't start producing content, whether it's video, blogs, etc., you will be missing out. A few years from now, you'll be looking back thinking, shit, I missed out on a golden opportunity, right? So today I've got a limited time. I have just 15 minutes. So of course, I'm not trying to give you all the information. I feel information is actually cheap. You can find everything on Google. I feel like those types of speeches are not about giving you info, but about giving you some type of insight, changing your perspective, right? So my goal here is that when you leave this room, you will think, you know what? This guy made a good point. Maybe I should give it a shot, right? And of course, don't take my word for it, but just at least try for yourself. So some of you may be thinking, cool, content production makes sense, but I'm a CEO of a big company. I guess it doesn't apply to me. Or you may be thinking, well, I'm a VP in a huge company, or I'm a VC. Why would I produce content? And I truly believe that you too should be producing content. Okay, so let's get into the reasons. So the first reason for producing content is actually very simple, right? We live in a very noisy world. We are bombarded with stimuli from all over the place. I mean, when you think about it, you go on YouTube, you want to watch some meditation video, the next thing you know, some random guy is trying to sell you something, right? And you went there because you wanted to meditate. Even when you walk on the streets, you see all those billboards, everyone is trying to sell you something. So it's very difficult to truly stand out as a brand, as a person, and as a company, right? It's not very difficult to get followers, but what's difficult is to get people who will become your true fans, right? People who will rave about your content. So I believe that if you produce content, especially if you make it super valuable and authentic, then you stand out from the crowd, because when you can create a situation where people Google you, they go online, they see your content, and there is so much value in there that they are just wondering, you know what, I would actually pay for this. I can't believe this is for free. Then I can guarantee you that you have customers for life. And even if they don't buy anything from you, they will be telling everyone else why they should do business with you or become your customer, right? How many of you agree with this, by the way? Yeah? Awesome. So the second reason is also very simple. Look, there's this nice saying, don't judge the book by its cover, right? It sounds really nice. You should always get to know people first. But let's face it, it's hardwired in our brains that we have to judge the book by its cover, right? Whenever you meet someone for the first time, you have to make this subconscious decision how you're going to position them. It's in our human nature. We have to make decisions fast. So this conference is a very good example. I'm not sure how many people we have in this room, maybe, I don't know, 1,000 people, maybe more, maybe less, but it's a lot of people. And you're going to be meeting a ton of people while you're here for the next 2 days. Now, the question is, what's going to happen when you meet somebody that you really relate to? And what's going to happen the same evening? Well, guess what? They're going to Google you. They most probably will Google your name, right? And you probably will Google yours. And you may be thinking, I'm not doing those things. Of course, most of us do. Some of us even Google ourselves. In fact, to see, oh, wow, maybe something new shows up. But in fact, I encourage you after this speech, Google your own name and ask yourself, if I saw a person like this online, what would I think? What impression would that person make on me? Because, as I said, we judge the book by its cover, and if someone Googles you and nothing shows up, then it's kind of a signal that, you know what, the credibility kind of goes down, even if you build a nice connection. On the other hand, when somebody Googles you and they find very valuable, authentic content, they get a glimpse of how you think about the world, of what's your value and belief system, and what you know. It's a crazy credibility factor. Now, the third reason for producing content I would like to talk to you about now is polarity, polarizing, right? So look, in this world, there's one very simple truth. No matter what you do, you will never please every single person, right? Never. It's not possible, right? And good example is me being on the stage, right? So this is going to be a bit awkward, but let me share this. I'm usually a guy who doesn't filter himself, so let's be real. And this applies to me and every single speaker. As I got on the stage, the majority of you probably looked at me thinking, okay, he looks like a reasonable guy. I hope he's going to offer me some value, right? Not overly positive, not negative. Now, some people here probably looked at me thinking, I don't know why, but I like this guy. I can relate to him. I can resonate with him. But on the flip side, there are some people here, I know for a fact, statistically, there are some people here, I hope not too many, that looked at me from the very beginning and you thought, I don't like this guy. I don't know why. I can't resonate with him, right? And the truth is that I'm totally cool with it. I actually love this state of affairs because I feel like, again, you cannot please everyone. And whenever you put yourself out there, whether it's a stage or content production, you will have situations where other people may be judging you. And I feel like the fact that not everyone can relate to you and resonate with you, it's actually a great thing because it's a great pre-selection tool, right? So after the speech, some of you may be thinking, I want to talk to this guy, maybe I want to see some of his videos. Some of you may be thinking, I hope I'm not going to bump into him tonight at some party in town. But it's all fine. And I feel like when you produce content that's authentic, content that polarizes, then what's going to happen is you filter people, and it's going to be much easier for you to attract people who could become your raving fans. And it's all about building that base of raving fans. So right now, I hope that you have a little bit of more motivation to at least give it a shot and try to produce content. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about that missing ingredient for producing content that people really want to consume, right? Because this is the issue. You decide to produce content, and the next question is, how do I do it so people actually want to watch my videos or read my articles, right? Or visit my website. Now, I could talk about many different things, value creation, etc., but I feel like there is one key element that's missing, right? And it's missing because it's uncomfortable, and it's authenticity. Authenticity is really missing. Most people don't think about it. Most people produce content, and They are trying to create some type of a mask, right? We all try to project ourselves in a certain way. That's why we dress the way we dress. We try to speak in a certain way because we want people to like us. But I believe that if you truly want to connect with your audience, and it doesn't matter if you are a freelancer, an entrepreneur, a big CEO, if you want to truly connect with people at a deeper level, then you have to embrace a little bit of vulnerability, right? Super important, right? After all, humans connect to other humans. Nobody wants to do business with a business or a machine. People want to do business with human beings. So you got to create that human level connection. So let me share with you a quick story that happened to me a few years ago, and I don't want to talk too much about myself, but I feel like this story portrays very well how this principle works. So a few years ago, I went to this meetup in Tallinn in Estonia, and it was this inner circle meetup with 25, maybe 30 high-level people from best-selling authors to all types of CEOs. And we did it in Mindvalley headquarters in Tallinn. So at some point, the CEO of Mindvalley, Vishen Lakiani, came up with this brilliant idea. Why don't everyone just stand up for 1 minute and everyone will have 1 minute introduction? Now, of course, half of the people are like, oh shit, because nobody wants to present. Everyone kind of feels uncomfortable about getting out there. And look, at that stage of my life, I felt fairly comfortable with presenting, but I also knew that I was always putting on some type of mask, right? I always wanted to be this type of confident guy who always have everything handled. And for the first time in my life, I decided to share the real story with people and share where I came from. So the moment I made that decision, something interesting happened. My heart started beating faster, like crazy. I started sweating, and I could see my hands shaking a little bit, and I felt a little bit lightheaded. And this hadn't happened to me for a long time. It's basically stage fright. And I couldn't believe, why the hell is it happening? And it was happening because I decided to be vulnerable. But I decided to go for it anyway. I stood up and I told people the real story of my life, the fact that I grew up in Poland, we didn't have too much money, at some point lived in this post-commie flat with cockroaches, and I had social anxiety, lack of confidence, didn't know how to talk to people. So I shared with them all of those things, the dark side of my past. And then I explained how this impacted me and made me do what I do now. And as uncomfortable as it felt, when I sat down, afterwards something really interesting happened. So a bunch of people came up to me and they said, hey man, this was really good. This really got me thinking because you made me realize that it is okay to be a human being. And even though we have all of those high-level people here, we are just humans and we all have our struggles and our pains and our weaknesses. And that day I learned a very important lesson, right? Namely, vulnerability is power. Vulnerability makes you authentic. Now, how do we relate it to content creation? Now, you gotta be vulnerable when you create content. Now, I'm not saying be vulnerable all the time. I'm not saying every time you post an article or make a video or talk to someone, share that sad story from your childhood. I mean, that's crazy. That's going overboard, right? But I encourage you to pick bits and pieces of vulnerability and put them into your content. And again, some of you may be thinking, because we have a big diversity in this audience, right? We have all types of people. And some of you here may be thinking, well, but I'm a big CEO. I employ 175 people and we make 25 million a year. How can I possibly be vulnerable? Very simple. You could, for example, make an intro video for the website so people can see the CEO, so people see the person behind the brand. Now, if you're a startup, you could, for example, create a free video course that's 60-minute long. You put all your effort into it. You try to make it amazing, but then you give it away for free. So you create that effect where people watch it and they are thinking, holy shit, this is amazing. I would pay for it. I can't believe I'm getting it for free. I'm going to follow this company literally for the rest of my life. So this is what you can do to use that vulnerability. Now, speaking of vulnerability, I'd like to do an exercise that's a little bit uncomfortable, at least for those of you in the first, I would say, 5 rows. So this is something I learned in theater, and what I want to do right now is I'm going to pick randomly, I'm going to pick 8 people to join me on a stage. And by the way, when I look at you and I keep walking, doesn't mean I haven't picked you. I want to see everyone. I want to pick people who seem the most stressed, and it's going to be really valuable, you will see. And I'm going to pick 8 people, you will get a microphone each, and you will join me on a stage. Okay. I think I have my picks. All right.
You know what? Just in terms of that sounds absolutely intriguing. The only thing is, if we did that, that would take a lot of time, and already we're kind of trying to make up time. So
Sure.
So if we can leave that one for maybe later on, or maybe tomorrow, find somewhere we can put that, and then you kind of
Actually, the tricky thing is that I wasn't supposed to pick anybody up. I just wanted to trick them into believing that I'm going to pick them up.
You trick me.
And you see, and you see, but the funny thing is that, could you hear this laughter now? This sigh of relief, especially from this crowd here. So you may be thinking, and I'm going to wrap up in a second, but why this crazy guy is trying to pick 8 people to take them to the stage, right? And you guys could feel it. I could see some of your faces. Oh, please, don't pick me, right? And again, everyone is laughing because it's true. Now, why is that? Well, it's because we are all afraid of getting on a stage. We are all afraid to some extent of potential rejection, right? We all want validation and approval of other people, right? So this feeling you felt just now, and by the way, if you're sitting at the back, just imagine how it would feel to sit here and almost getting on a stage right now. That feeling is the feeling that you will have every time you push yourself to produce content that's authentic and that's vulnerable. So when you feel that feeling, it's actually a good thing. It means you are doing something very well. So to wrap up, look, we learned a couple of different things today, why content production is so important for companies and for individuals. But I would like to leave you with my final thought. Over the years, there have been so many opportunities all over the world, right? I could list hundreds of them. I mean, from crypto, if you got crypto 5-6 years ago, guess what would be happening right now? By the way, I still believe in crypto. I'm a crypto guy, so don't get me wrong. Still going to the moon, but most people bought last year in December, not 5-6 years ago. So there have been so many great opportunities, but the crazy thing about opportunities is that when they are at their best, we don't see them for what they are, right? And I believe that building content, especially in the context of building content as a company, is one of those golden opportunities. And you may not see it right now, but if you don't jump on board and don't produce authentic, valuable content, you and your company will miss out.